just do that. Okay, so hello and welcome to our team leader meeting, our first team leader meeting. It is February 1st, 2022. So our goals in these meetings, and sorry for sending you like all of them at once in your email, but I just wanted us to make sure to block them off and like have them set. So, so the purpose of these conversations, as I said to you each individually, is to, first of all, for sure, go over the team meeting that's coming up. So everyone feels like really comfortable facilitating that, like, pedagogically where you're going and, what the purpose of each part of it is. And then also to spend a little time just hearing from each other, like, how's it going? And this will be more relevant once we really get into it, like maybe next meeting, but just how's it going? Have you hit any snags? Is there anything you want to brainstorm with your fellow team leaders about? Anything you want to share with me? Because as I mentioned, but I'll mention again, because it's really important to say, this is for you, right? This whole thing is for you all. And if it's not working for you, I want to change it. So, I've created this curriculum, but I will throw the whole thing out if what you say is actually we need something really different. Maybe not like the whole thing, but I really will be happy to rework the direction we're taking or the kind of coaching you need or what, modify for your team, depending on where you are. It's really for you. So just to make sure that that's clear. So it's partially these meetings. It's also for me to like get the temperature of how your teams are doing. And if everyone's like, oh, we need like 5 more weeks to do these interviews, like, okay, let's add more weeks. That's fine. We'll rearrange. So, so let's get started. I want to show you the, so first of all, has everyone logged into the website?
Yep.
And you've like clicked enroll in course, because that's what gives you access to the different weeks. Do you know if all of your team members have done the same? You might want to check with them. And it might also be useful if you plan to like send 1 email a week to your, like, especially on the weeks where you don't have team meetings. I know that some of the teams that have participated in Spark in the past, the team leader has sent out like a weekly email, just like, hey, remember everybody, I had one team leader who actually just copied and pasted the homework, like the assignments, just to keep people on. So it depends on your leadership style. But even if you just say, hey, don't forget, we have our work cut out for us. It's on the course website link. We'll see you on Thursday at 9:30 for our meeting. But sometimes that's helpful for the team to kind of get it, especially at the beginning, get into it, but also remind people what's going on. But let me show you. So everyone has logged in to Canopy Lab before, so that's great. And I'm just going to share my screen and walk you through the, just open, right? Yeah, walk you through the team meeting. And then I want to open up to like your questions, how things are going, all of that. So, but because this is kind of the meat of what I wanted to do, I want to make sure we do that. Okay. So, so I'll just show you Canopy Lab just for a second. This is what things should look like for you. And when you log in, you'll probably end up on the Spark Montreal kind of the landing page with the description. And then over here on the side, you have, this was last week. I'm sorry, the font is so small. We're working with a new like learning system website, and there are some things that are less than ideal. So anyway, I wish the font were bigger, but I asked Shelly to put in your Canopy Lab 101 sheet, like how to increase your font if it's like too small for you. So this is the week we're in, the week we just started, and have some reading. If you haven't yet read the 2018 Survey of Canadian Jews, I literally keep it on my desk. But if you haven't read it, good chance to read it, and especially the sort of handful of pages specifically about trends in intermarriage and interfaith relationships throughout the country. It'll give you a sense of the bigger picture behind the Montreal study. And you can, but the whole thing is interesting for someone like me, the sort of sociology of what's going on in the Jewish community. The main thing that people are going to be reading is this report, Something More, which Casper Terkyle and Angie Thurston, they they started working together when they were students at Harvard's Divinity School, and now they do a lot of kind of sociology of contemporary faith expression. And this report is really interesting. Also, I included their previous report, How We Gather, because I think it's very powerful too, but I didn't want to assign too many things, but feel free to read it. Basically, they're saying, hey, people have a lot of needs that they fulfill in a lot of different ways. And some of the things, and I kind of talked about this a bit in my talk at our workshop, but some of the things people used to fulfill through faith community, now they fulfill through Soul Cycle, through yoga class, through CrossFit, through the art studio, right? There are different things that we all need in our lives. And they make a case, they identify 7 things that they feel confident. They would say everybody needs some of each of these. And they invite us to think about what are the ways that we and our people that we're trying to serve, where do they and we fulfill those needs? And the reason that I'm going into detail about the report you're going to read is because we're going to do a little bit of it ourselves as our homework, as our assignments before our team meeting. So there are 2 worksheets that you and your team members should take a stab at. I don't know, spend 10 minutes on each of them, not a big deal. It's really for the purposes of discussion. But I'm going to open it up for you to show you. And so this is the report I'm having you guys read. This is the second one that came before this one. That's also interesting, especially if you work with young adults. Anya, I think especially you might want to read both of them. So the worksheets you and your team members are going to fill out before the meeting. You're going to do this one, which uses the 7 categories that Casper and Angie outline in their report. So they say everybody needs community, social transformation, creativity, personal transformation, purpose finding, accountability, and something more, which, we might say like the feeling there's something greater than yourself, or the feeling that you're connecting to something transcendent, right? Any of those things, they kind of just call it something more. And we're going to actually ask you to think about, where do you get these things? Where do you find your sense of community? And obviously all of us is multifaceted. I might find community in a dozen different places, but like jot down 1 or 2, how do you find a sense of community in that place? What are the pains and gains? So it just means like, what do you get out of this? What's positive you get out of this? Pains, like what's not ideal about this? Like what's actually hard about this? So let's say I get community from my synagogue, because I attend X number of times a week. What's a gain? I feel a sense of connection to people like me. I feel a sense of connection to God. What are some of the pains? It's far away. I have to drive really far to get there, and like nobody talks to me at Kiddush. I don't know. I'm making it up, right? But like do a little bit of thinking, like what do I get out of this, and also like what's kind of challenging about it, and just make some notes for each of those categories. Where do I connect to my need for social transformation? The answer might be nowhere, by the way. The answer might be nowhere. And then like maybe you have an unfulfilled need for that thing. We can't do everything. I don't think I have. I'm not sure if I have creativity. I think I have it in my work, but I'm not sure I have it like outside of work. I don't know, like we all have limits. So that's the first worksheet to fill out, is just to reflect for yourself, where do I experience these things? And then the second one is to turn our gaze to our institutions. So because much of what we're going to be doing in this process is thinking about our users, interviewing them, asking them about their experiences. But let's start with ourselves. Like, how do we actually experience our institution? What are some of the things that are gain creators, right? What are the social, emotional, spiritual gains, benefits, positive outcomes that the institution whose team you're on fulfills for you? How does it do that? And like, not all of the team leaders are Jewish, right? But if something is fulfilling here. So it's not like I'm not asking what Jewishly does this fulfill for you, right? Like, just think about like what, Barbara bounced in. She's the children's librarian. There's such possibility. She gave me this like amazing talk about her inspiration about library. Like, put some of that there, right? Like how do I experience my institution in that? And also, what are some of the social, emotional, spiritual pains, challenges that the institution you're representing helps you to relieve, and how does it do that? So maybe like loneliness is one of my pains in my life, right? That's like social, emotional, and spiritual. And and I'm the program director for this Jewish institution, and actually working at the institution helps me relieve my loneliness, because like a huge part of my work is connecting with people, right? Whatever that is. So those are the worksheets that everyone will fill out beforehand as kind of the material you're really going to get into together. Any questions on those worksheets? Become a little clearer when you read the report, but like pretty clear, I hope.
So we'll be filling those out in advance of the first meeting, and also have the team fill it out as well.
Exactly. Yeah. So if you're going to email them before your meeting next week, you might say, hey, as a reminder, part of our team meeting is going to be actually going over these worksheets and having some discussions about, how you experience these things in your life. So please fill them out beforehand. Mm-hmm. Any other questions about the worksheets? Okay. So the team meeting agenda will always be here on a team meeting week, and it'll pop up a PDF, which I suggest you print ahead of time. I'm a person, I can't like look on a screen and it's like too many things. And also your people, it has instructions for how to lead the meeting, but it's also great for your team, especially if they're a visual learner, to print it out. For this team meeting, I actually have a little worksheet. They're going to do you all are going to do some writing on during your meeting. So they definitely want to at least print that last one so they can, do some writing on it. So here's the scoop. This is this agenda, this outline of a meeting is like pretty typical of the way these meetings will go. You'll open up. I've given you a little more time for introductions because it's your first meeting together. Well, some of you already had some meetings, conversations together, but maybe this is the first time you'll all be talking with each other as a Spark Montreal team. I've created a list of meeting norms that might be helpful. They're in the packet you got in the mail. I noticed while I was looking through it that it printed wrong. So I noticed that the graphics got garbled. I don't know if you made it into the inside of the packet. We're just working on making that not happen. So I'll be emailing you soon with a new one. And I've also asked Shelly to upload those meeting norms as a PDF to here. So you can just have it with you, attach it to the end of the team meeting. It's just things like be on time and like prepare and step up, step back, that kind of thing. But it might be useful to take a look at them together. At the beginning of each meeting, there's also a little text study, a little inspiration from Jewish tradition. So I suggest that the way you do this is have one of your team members read the quote out loud, and then just go through the questions. You as the facilitator can just ask the questions, see what people think. You don't need to know anything in particular about Judaism or about, where the text comes from. I try to put a little bit of information, a date, to situate you a little bit. This is like a moral tale, a short morality tale where Reb Zusha is crying because he feels like when he dies, God won't ask him, why were you not Moses? God will ask him, why were you not Zusha? So it's a quote, a story trying to help you all talk about how do we get, how can we be our own institution within this? Because you don't have to be, this other institution you might be thinking of, right? The Shar is never going to be the JC, the Y. The Y is never going to be MJM, right? Right? How are we going to be able to dig into what our capabilities, but also like powers and skills are deep in who we are we're not asking anyone to become someone else, right? It's really like, how do we dig in and most embody what we have to offer as we're doing this. And then the meat of the meeting. Yeah, go for it.
How many minutes? Oh, I see we still have minutes. How many minutes is a meeting? Like what does this add up to?
It's an hour and a half.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. So, and so I put suggested minutes. Obviously, like, you know, feel free to play with it. There'll always be kind of a main chunk of work to get done. And that's what will always end up having the largest amount of time devoted to it. You know, if people don't find the text studies to be meaningful, I'm not going to be insulted if you don't use them. They're there as inspiration, right? So you can feel out who your people are. But the main thing, don't skip that, right? Because that's really the work you're there to do. So
Rabbi Julia,
yeah,
just a question. So I was looking at the schedule and it was like week 1, week 2, and I was like, oh my God, where are we? And are we supposed to be doing this on every week, or is it every other week, or, you know, because I felt like every week would be very difficult to read all the materials.
No.
So maybe you can just elaborate.
Every week there is something to do.
Okay.
But the team meetings are like every couple weeks.
Okay.
So in other words, I'll show you, I haven't yet made this into a proper calendar, but I will. Let me open this up. This is like what I stare at today. I'm uploading your March and April sections of the website. But so for example, this is the basic calendar. So you can see we're in Learn. And I will make this, and this is sort of like my working doc, right? It's got some notes for me, whatever. But this is where we are now. So you'll see we had our launch workshop. Then we have a team meeting this week. Do people have your team meeting set, you know, when you're having them?
Not yet.
Not yet.
We're still working on the doodle, but.
Okay. If you have to, you could have it next week. You know, if you can do it this week, that'd be great. If you can't, you can have it next week. It just won't summarize what they did next week. But so you can see we got team meeting, and then 3 weeks later, another team meeting. And then 1, 2, 3 weeks after, 4 weeks after that, a team meeting. In between, we've got the workshops.
Okay.
The weeks that there's nothing in this column are like everyone's doing independent work. You know, over here, you're doing your interviews during these weeks. So, you know, some weeks will be like this, you know, some weeks will be doing some reading. Some weeks, the bulk of it will be a little bit of reading and attend a workshop. But you'll never have a workshop and a team meeting in 1 week. You'll never have like do 3 interviews and also go to this workshop, right? So I've tried to spread those things out so that there's only 1 gathering in a given week, if any. So you can see there's 1, 2, 3, 4. There's, you know, there's a bunch of weeks where there's no gathering, but that's how it works. It's kind of each week there's something, but nothing is every week.
Thank you.
Yeah. Switch back over to the other window. So the bulk of the discussion, now this is a get to know you and sort of tone setting meeting for your team, right? To launch your work together as a team. So you're going to go around and discuss what you found, like when, you know, where do you make meaning? Each person will share a little bit, you know, when they're, oh, I realized that actually I get my community feel from XYZ thing, and I hadn't really thought of it that way, whatever, right? You know, do a little reflecting, share a bit for a couple minutes on each of those things. You know, go around and show that the results of that, highlight a little bit. You might want to, you know, keep time a little bit, right? People can be talkative, and we want to get through it to the discussion part. And then I put some discussion questions like, what did people have in common? What was different? Why do you think different people find these things in different places? Do you think your answers are typical of someone who shares your demographic? Right? Because we're talking to what we would call like one demographic, but there's just like a lot of shades of different, you know, life circumstances within that. So just reflecting a little on that and being able to say, oh, like we're in the same age bracket and we both have kids, and like actually we have totally different places we find these things. So just getting into some of the nuance of that, and how might using that method to look at your users' experiences help the team. You know, so you're going to be doing some of that as you're listening in your interviews. You're going to be thinking, oh, where's this person, you know, fulfilling their need for connection? Where is this person fulfilling their need for creativity? These are some, you know, some lenses to use as you're talking to people. And then you're going to try on other personalities. So, you're gonna invite people to do a fishbowl. Do you know what I mean when I say that? Like one person is talking and kind of embodies another person, right? So pick like a type of person you encounter from your institution. So, imagine you're in Jewish Montreal or doesn't want to go to synagogue or other institutions. Where do they get their things fulfilled, right? So first you did it for yourself, and now you're going to try on another type of person that maybe you've encountered, and spend a little time just, telling other people where you imagine they might get these needs met. You may also want, as an alternative, you may want to bring in those how do I experience my own institution worksheets, right? So you could, if you want, instead of doing a fishbowl, and I didn't write this in, but I'm actually improvising a little now because I'm realizing like, that would be a good one too. I might rewrite it in the time between now and when you download it next. But you might want to bring those in and take a look. What did we get out of our institution? And then finally, closing with our favorite leadership fails. So an important part of our mindset in Spark Montreal is to be okay with trying and failing, and knowing that failure is actually a learning experience. So there's a quote from the article that the lecture that you read, or you tried to read, I know it's a little dense, but from Rabbi Yitz Greenberg, and it's about Yochanan ben Zakkai, who basically saved rebuilt a new academy for rabbinic learning when Jerusalem was destroyed. And Rabbi Greenberg imagines, maybe he's not sure, right? In that moment, now it's a story that's already been told, but in that moment, he wasn't sure if the choice was the right one. And us too, we're never sure in the moment necessarily how things are going to work out. So I'm inviting everybody to take a little time, do some writing, think of a time you tried something new in a leadership role and it didn't go as you planned. What happened? How did you feel about it? How do you feel about it now? And what did you learn? As a way of kind of bolstering ourselves, saying, we're going to learn from this. We're going to try things. Not everything's going to work. And that we can actually give ourselves permission to try things out and see success a little differently. Questions about the team meeting?
Very nice, thorough instructions.
I tried. This is the kind of lesson plan I write for myself, right? So I could show you, what I wrote for myself for our workshop last week, right? I try to make it really easy and clear because you're leading something you didn't create. So I want to provide as much instruction as I can, and also, give you permission to cut things short. If people aren't really into the text study, don't take 15 minutes, take 5. It's okay. You're going to sense what's best for your people. If you want a little more time for the group discussion, you feel free to modify as you want, or follow it exactly. And you'll always make your way through the themes we're trying to go for.
I actually do have a quick question about the taking on other personas to sort of try and imagine where they get their sense of community and meaning if outside of institutions. I've found in the past when we've sort of tried a design thinking approach, we've used this style of imagine another persona. And something I've struggled with in the past is that because you're making up somebody else, it's also very easy to make up the answers without really having them founded in anything. And it's hard to know when you're crossing into that kind of I'm just making things up, or I'm actually resonating with something. And I'm just wondering if you have any kind of tips or tricks for keeping that personal bias in check when you're trying to come up with other personas.
I would say tell people to try to embody another type of person they feel they know pretty well. Right? Okay. So maybe I'll think of my mom and I'll be okay, I'm a 60-something, woman, and I don't belong to a synagogue anymore. And okay, now I'll try it out. Right. So I think that would be the key is tell people, okay, now we're going to try it. We're trying to guess a little bit for other people. Pick someone who you feel well, not an actual, but pick a type of person you feel you know pretty well. And that the bigger point isn't your acting skills. Right. The bigger point you should let your team know is we're trying to build our empathy. the interviews we're doing are about empathy, are about
Mhm.
trying to put ourselves in other people's shoes. And so now that we've done this for ourselves, like, could we imagine what other people might experience? So that's the whole point of it. It's not it's not about your acting skills, but that it's really, can we connect with this empathy? Can we practice together putting ourselves in other people's shoes? And later on, we're going to do it with a lot of information. Now this is, this like, as we're just right. We're experiencing some empathy together. We're trying to imagine where other people get their, needs met, but that it for sure isn't without a lot of information, but we're going to actually, with our interviews, then learn a lot. And then if we do this again, which we will, to kind of say, okay, I'm gonna embody like this type of person. And I've talked to 3 people who actually have similar stories. Okay, now I am, and then you can speak as that person, but you'll have done it because you did these intensive interviews with people. I think I'm going to go back and add the option if you want to swap out the fishbowl exercise and do this sort of organizational discussion, and you can decide which you think would work best for your team.
Okay, great.
Any other questions? How are you feeling starting this process?
I want to get started. I find, it's a little bit out there now, and I'd like to,
Yeah.
I'm sure once I do a week or two, then I'll have a better grasp of what it is. So I'm ready. I think I need to do it to know it.
Yeah. Have you found the website is okay to interact with? Is it clear? Yeah.
I found it wasn't great. I've used different websites or different platforms for different courses. I find it was a bit awkward because at first I looked at it and I was like, I see the lecture, or I see the readings, but where do I find them? How do I find them? So I didn't find it was as user-friendly as it could have been. It was just good. Like, here's lesson and here are the things, and you can check off sometimes tasks. So
Yeah. If you have suggestions, if there are things, not that we can't reprogram,
right.
Although we've tried, to be honest, we're a little disappointed in this platform that they really represented. They had a little more functionality than they did. But if there are ways, even just organizing on the page, that you think would be helpful or things to include, let me know. But unfortunately, we can't reprogram the webs. Although at this point, now that we've been wrestling with them for a little bit, I would like to. But yeah, it has some limited functionalities, but hopefully, at least it's all there in one place. You can click, you've got all of the things that are there. So make sure your team members are signed up for the website, because otherwise they're not going to know what's going on. And to regularly be checking at the beginning of the week, planning when they're going to do, on a given week, it'll be between a half hour to an hour, maybe it's 2 hours. Occasionally it might be between 2 and 3 hours. If we have a workshop that week that, that takes some of that time, but I tried to spread it out. If you find that no one is doing the readings, or they're not certain, keep me posted on how people are responding to the information or to different things, because I'm happy to switch things up or to offer in different modalities. I've tried to mix up like articles and videos and podcasts so that people, we can kind of cover a lot of learning styles. All right, amazing. I'm so glad to be working with you all. This is so exciting. And as always, shoot me an email, or we can make a time to talk if you have any questions, or you want to troubleshoot anything. I'm always here.
Thank you.
Okay, see you soon.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone. Have a good week.
Bye.
Stay
Thank
warm.
you.
Bye.